open to the next clean page in your journal, and we're going to title it Variability. Variability. It's not the same thing as variable. Variability, just like the video you just watched, what it means is how spread out the data is. We need to know what variability means, especially when you're dealing with graphs and you're collecting data, when you're taking surveys or when you're asking people different questions and you want to know how spread out your data is. That's called variability, or some people say a wide range. So variability means how spread out the data is. Variability. How spread out are you? How spread out are your numbers, are your data? So let's look at this example. Pretend, write these down: 1, 7, 10, 2, 15, and 22. I don't know, you can pretend that you asked a survey about people's favorite color, and you can say, okay, 1 person voted red, 7 people voted green, 10 people voted blue, whatever. Make something up. So here's your data set, and I want to know how spread out were my numbers. Well, my smallest number that we had was a 1, and the largest number we had was a 22. So variability means it was stretched out pretty well. So I would say that this has a pretty high variability. There's a big range. Remember, range means the difference between. Well, the difference between 22 and 1 is 21. So there's a big range. I'd say that has a good amount of variability. There's a high variability. It's stretched out pretty well. Let's look at another set of numbers. Let's write these down: 2, 2, 4, 5, and 3. Looking at those, I want to look at my range, my highest and my lowest. Well, my lowest number is a 2. My highest number is a 5. The range between that is just 3. There's only a difference of 3. So would you say that that's spread out? I would say not very much. So I would say that has a very low variability. Yes, there's a little bit of a difference, there's a little bit of a range, but not very much. So that variability, we would consider that low. It does not have a very big range. It's not spread out very much, only from 2 to 5. Now let's look at something like this. 5, 5, 5, 5. If you ask people their favorite color and 5 people voted for yellow, 5 voted for blue, 5 voted for green, and 5 voted for purple, all the colors had a tie, then you would say there is no variability. There was no range. 5 minus 5 is 0. There is no range. There was no low to high. They were all the same. So there is such thing as no variability if all of them are the same. So we can have high variability when they have a pretty big range, it's spread out. We have a low variability where there's a difference but not too much. And then no variability obviously means there was no difference at all. So we're just going to look at a couple of, this is all you're going to write down, but I just want to show you a couple of graphs. So let's look at this bar graph right here. We're not going to get into the details of it, but bar graphs are easy to read. It looks like we're talking about the number of miles. So on Monday, this person ran 90 miles. Probably not ran, that's way too much. Or probably drove. On Tuesday, they went 135 miles. So let's look at the range here. It looks like my tallest bar was 135. And my smallest bar is up to 75. So if I found the difference or the range between my highest and my lowest, would you say that's super high variability or kind of low in the middle? I'd say the difference between 75 and 135, that's a pretty decent amount of variability. That's a crazy graph. Let's look at this other bar graph down here. Number of miles. Let's look at our range. Look at your biggest to the smallest. How spread out is this data? Well, the biggest number was 165. My smallest bar is at 75. So again, that's pretty spread out. 75 to 165, there's a pretty big difference. So you could say that that has a higher variability. And let's look at one more. Bar graphs are easy to tell. So Favorite sports is the title. So soccer, it looked like 30 students voted for soccer, 15 students voted for golf. Our highest one was hockey. That's surprising. Hockey, up to 50. Golf, 15. So if you found the difference or the range between those two, I'd say there's a pretty big variability there. So again, variability, all that means is how spread out is your data. Are they close together? If all of my bars were the same height, then there'd be no variability. If my bars were very, very close together, then I would say that's not very much variability because the bars aren't that different in height. When you're looking at bar graphs, though, make sure you're reading the numbers. Don't just go off of the look, because sometimes that could be deceiving. So make sure you're actually looking at the numbers and finding the range or the difference.